This is the Universal Audio Volt 2, and in my opinion, it is the best audio interface on the market under $200. Of course, it's got some really nice features, and we're going to check those out. And of course, it sounds really good, so we're going to listen to some sound examples. But there's one reason I highly recommend this audio interface over others that I don't see a lot of people talking about, and I'm not really sure why. So today we're going to talk about it. Now, I've owned several audio interface units over my 20 plus years of my home recording journey, and I can say that after using the Volt 2 for the last couple months and really trying it out, I've been really impressed with it. Okay, so let's talk features and what I really like about this. So first of all, this feels like a very high quality product. It's very sturdy, it has a metal chassis built all around it. The knobs, when you turn them, they're very smooth. They have a nice resistance and feel high quality. And the buttons feel very nice as well. So using this actually feels like it's a really high quality product. Sometimes audio interfaces at this level, under $200, feel kind of cheap, or they feel like they skimped on something. Not on this one. Also, I've been enjoying the compact size of this. So my audio interfaces are almost always rack mount and they stay racked in my desk. But having a small one like this that I really enjoy using has been great, because when I do vocals, I usually do vocals back where my drums are over there, and I can just take this with me and plug it in my laptop. I don't have to run any cables across the floor or anything like that. Also, if I go to a friend's house to songwrite or I go on vacation, I can just throw this in my backpack and take it with me. And when it's on my desk, it doesn't take up hardly any space at all. It never gets in the way. So if you have a small desk situation, this will be a great option for you. And one other thing I liked about the design of this is that everything you're going to need on a regular basis is on the front here. So sometimes audio interfaces this size, they'll put like headphone jacks on the back, or they'll put the actual XLR inputs for your microphones, they'll put those on the back. And the other thing is, these buttons right here, they do all the functions you're going to need. There are no functions that you have to open up software on your computer to switch and change. It's all right here at the touch of a button. So I think that's a really great, well thought out design. All right, so let's talk inputs now. So you can see we have two inputs right here, and I always recommend you have at least two inputs on your audio interface, because yes, we usually just use one when we're recording vocals and stuff like that, but one of these days you're going to want to have two for recording acoustic guitar in stereo, or recording an electric guitar amp with two microphones, or plugging in a keyboard with both left and right so you can take advantage of those stereo patches and effects and all that kind of stuff. So I always recommend just go ahead and get an interface with two inputs. This has two XLR combo jack inputs, so we can plug in microphones, we can plug in instruments like guitars if we're going to use amp sims and all that kind of stuff. And on the 1/4-inch input, it will do balanced or unbalanced, whichever cable you're using, it'll be appropriate for that. Related to these inputs, over here we have the phantom power button right here, and basically what that does is some microphones, like condenser microphones, require power in order to work, and this will supply power for those. One unique feature on this that I haven't had on any of my audio interfaces. Normally when you push this button, it sends power instantly to the microphone, and if you don't have things muted completely, sometimes it can create a pop in the headphones and it can be kind of loud. So what this does is you push this and you look, it flashes, and what it does is actually ramps up slowly in power. And then when you turn it off, it ramps back down slowly in power, and that avoids that pop from that instant power. So very cool, well thought out feature there. Also related to these inputs here, we have the highly marketed vintage mode right here. And it's supposed to kind of do like what their famous tube preamp, their 610 does. It gives some character, some mojo. Now, there are no tubes or anything in here. They're doing it through other circuitry and stuff like that. But it is supposed to do that thing. So we'll check that out in our sound examples with and without. And also right here, you can see we have our instrument button. So basically when we plug in our 1/4-inch and we're plugging a guitar or something like that, we can change it from line level to instrument level. All right, let's talk outputs now. So on the front, again, we have our headphone jack. And again, I really appreciate having the headphone jack on the back. It just makes life so much easier. Then right here we have our volume knob for that. And related to the headphone jack, we have this button right here. This is direct monitoring. Direct monitoring is one of those things that can be a little confusing. I've gotten several questions on my channel about it before. So if you'd like for me to make a full in-depth video to really dive into when you want to use this, when you don't want to use this, let me know in the comments down below. Now on the back, we have our 1/4 inch outputs to go to speakers. It can be balanced or unbalanced, again, just depending on which cable you use. And also we have our standard 5-pin MIDI in and out, which is really great because at this price point, not all interfaces have that. Next up is the USB-C connection here, and this is what sends that digital signal between the audio interface and the computer back and forth. One great thing is that it will also power this device. So if I plug into my laptop can send power over USB-C all on its own without an external power supply. Now you can use this with like an iPhone or an iPad or other similar device. One situation that comes up with those is some of those do not send power over the USB-C cable, or even if they do, it'll drain the battery faster than you'd like. So they have this other great option here where you can actually power it with an external power supply. So they give you a power cable that plugs in here, and it has USB-A end on one end, and you can just plug that into like a standard phone charger brick or something like that, and it will power this device with that external power, and then you still use the USB-C to send back and forth to your computer all the digital information that you're recording. One other great thing I like, it seems like kind of a small thing, is this power switch here. So especially if you leave it plugged in all the time, like just sitting on your desk, with a lot of units in this price range, you have to like pick it up, you got to unplug it to turn it off, and you got to pick it up and you got to do this whole thing and plug it back in just to turn it back on. This one, you just leave it plugged in and then you just turn it off or back on. Super easy. You can feel it. So again, another really well thought out, nice, convenient feature that you don't usually see on interfaces at this price point. All right, so now it's time for sounds, and we're going to listen to a stereo acoustic guitar and also a vocal. And we're going to do vintage on and vintage off and switch back and forth. And let me know in the comments down below if you hear any difference, and if so, which one you prefer. All right, next up is the vocal, and we're going to use the Shure SM7B. A lot of times people ask, can an interface like this handle a Shure SM7B? Because it's a microphone that requires a lot of gain. You got to really turn it up. And does it have enough headroom, or does it start to get kind of noisy and stuff like that? So again, we're going to switch between vintage and non-vintage. Let me know in the comments down below what you hear.
It's been a while since I've seen the slow sunset mesas in New Mexico. I keep your picture taped to the dash, but it started to fade. I took a trip home to find myself, a boarded uptown in a cheap motel. I guess it's just as well, we've both seen our better days. Sometimes you get lost when you lose your way. The road gets hard to find as the daylight fades. You gotta keep your head up and your shoulders back, and find yourself something and hold on to that. Sometimes you gotta keep on moving just to keep on moving along. Sometimes you gotta keep on moving just to keep on moving along.
All right, so like I said, I think this thing sounds really good. You can get high quality recordings out of this, no problem. Also, like I said, lots of great features packed in here already, especially for that sub $200 price point. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, there's something else that really sets this interface apart from the other ones, in my opinion, and that is the bundled plugins and software that you get with it for free. And one of the great things about this is you get everything you need to record, mix, and have your songs ready to release to Spotify or Apple or whatever. You get all of that here. You don't need anything else except for maybe one more plugin, and I'll tell you what that is at the end, but it's also free, and I'll tell you how to get that. Now, some other interfaces I used to recommend, they've gone to more of a subscription model with their software, and so you get stuck in this, well, you get it free for 6 months, and then you have to pay and subscribe and all that kind of stuff. So I don't like recommending those. I do use some of those personally myself, but especially for someone getting started, I really like this. You get high quality plugins that professionals are using. You hear them in songs and stuff on a regular basis everywhere. You get some of those plugins and you don't have to worry about paying for them again or subscribing. You just get them. All right, so let's run down this list of plugins you get. I'll give you a quick overview of each one of these, but if you want me to do a deep dive and a demo video of one of these, let me know in the comments down below, and I'm happy to do that. All right, so first thing up, you're gonna need recording software, some sort of software to record to and edit and manage your sessions and all that kind of stuff. Now, Universal Audio has their own, and it's called Luna, and I really like it. Technically, Luna is free for anybody and everybody, Mac or PC, and it's not really bundled with this, but it is a free option, and I think it's really good. It's definitely geared more towards people like me who do more of a traditional recording kind of situation where I have guitars and drums and bass and vocals, maybe piano, maybe occasional synthesizer and stuff like that, but it's kind of a traditional recording situation. If you're doing like EDM, dance, techno kind of stuff, you can probably do it in this and be a great starting point, but there's probably other software options that are going to be better suited for that kind of thing. One of those that a lot of people like to use is Ableton. I've never used Ableton personally myself, but with part of the software bundle you get with this interface, you actually get a license for Ableton Live Lite. So you may want to check that out. Again, I can't speak to Ableton a whole lot, but I know a lot of people who are more in the synth and MIDI kind of area prefer that. Now, one thing you do get with Luna, if you decide to go that route, is you get a really nice sound library. There's drums, there's bass guitars, there's electric guitars, there's strings, there's horns, there's choirs, there's bells and chimes and marimbas, all kinds of cool stuff in there that you can use as part of your production, and it's just included for free with Luna. All right, so now let's talk plugins. These are the plugins you're going to use when mixing and all that kind of stuff, and you get Universal Audio's Essential plugin bundle. And some of these plugins, again, are what the pros are using on some of their mixes. So first up, we have the Sentry Tube channel strip. So we have like a microphone preamp here. You can turn that up, get a little saturation, a little character going like that. It's got a 3-band EQ, so you can do some tone shaping there. It's got an optical compressor. And then you have the output section where you can adjust your final level to get it where you need it. Next up is the LA two-way compressor. Universal Audio is famous for their hardware unit of this. It's an optical compressor, kind of similar to what's in that channel strip we just talked about, but this has more knobs and features to have a little more control over your final compression settings. You get 3 different flavors of the LA two-way, and this plugin is used all the time by professionals, and you get it for free. So pretty cool there. Oxide tape recorder is a great way to make your recording sound more like it was recorded to a tape machine. You can get pretty crunchy and aggressive with it, but you can also bring it way back and get just more subtle with it if you want. Just add some of that tape warmth and saturation that everybody talks about. Next up is the Verve Analog Machines Essentials, and this is kind of like a tape machine thing too, but it's really more of an effect for like lo-fi kind of things and really changing the sound quite a bit. It's simple to use and lots of cool sounds in there. Next is the Pure Plate Reverb. I love this plugin. This is a fantastic sounding reverb, and this gets used by professionals all the time. It's great for vocals, great for acoustic guitars, and it's just a fantastic sounding reverb. Next up is Galaxy Tape Echo. So this is like an analog style delay based on tape delay, and as the repeats happen, they kind of fall apart a little bit and degrade. It's a very nice, pleasing analog kind of thing there. And also they have a spring reverb built in as well. So you can do delay and reverb, or just reverb, or just delay. Pultec Passive EQ Collection. These are used by pros all the time too. It's great for bass, great for kick drums, great for vocals, used for lots of different things. Polymax Synth. I don't use this one a whole lot personally, but it's got a lot of great sound. So if you're into the whole analog synth thing with LFOs and envelopes and all that kind of stuff, definitely check this out. Lots of cool sounds, lots of great presets in there as well to check out. Next up is a biggie for me, and that's Melodyne Essentials. So vocal tuning, all that kind of stuff, you can do that here. Normally it goes for like $99. I actually bought it several years ago and paid full price for it way back when, but you get it for free, and this does everything that you need for vocal tuning. All right, next up is the plugin bundle from Plugin Alliance. You get the Ampeg SVT VR Classic. This is a bass amp sim, so you record bass direct and you throw this on there. It makes it sound like it was recorded through a nice vintage bass amp. I love this plugin. I actually got this several years ago, and I use it for all of my country and my rock and my pop stuff. So fantastic plugin. I cannot recommend it enough. Next one by Plugin Alliance is the Brainworks Master Desk Classic. This is a great plugin. When you record your songs, then you mix your songs, reset all your levels, your EQ, your compression, your reverbs, your delays, and get it sounding like you want. Then you go to this one at the very end, and this just kind of sweetens everything, makes everything sound more cohesive. You bring the level up to industry standard as far as volume. This is a great way to do that. I like this one a lot because it's really pretty straightforward. It sounds really good, but also allows enough flexibility to kind of shape things the way you want. Next up is the Brainworks Tuner. Honestly, I never use this one. It's just a standard basic tuner. It's, I guess, nice they include it, but I use my tuners for my guitars, so I'd have no need for this one. But if you need a tuner, they include a nice tuner there for you. Next up is the Soft Tube bundle, and the first one we're going to talk about is the Marshall Plexi Classic. This is a very cool classic rock Marshall sound amp sim, and you can actually get some really nice cleans. You can get some really good classic rock crunchy tones, and then you can get kind of some higher gain stuff too. So that's a great plugin to have. Next up is the TSA R-1R Reverb, which is just a really nice, easy to say name. But this is a great plugin. I'd never used this until I got this bundle, and now I use it quite a bit. Super simple to use, just these couple sliders, and yeah, it sounds great. Tube delay. This is another analog style delay, similar to that Galaxy Tape Echo delay, but just kind of a little different flavor, but same idea. Next up is the saturation knob, and I honestly don't really use this one. I get my saturation from other things. Some of the plugins that we've already listed can do that. Next up is the Drummer S73 mastering processor. So this is another mastering plugin, kind of like that Brainworks Master Desk Classic, except this one's more preset, simple driven, and I prefer the Master Desk one to this one typically. However, this one's really cool just to try out the presets, see what they do. Next up is UJam. I had honestly never heard of UJam before I got these, and I've had a ton of fun with these plugins. They are so cool to play around with. First up is Deep, which is like a virtual drummer, and it's kind of a classic vintage or soul kind of drum thing going on here. You got different drum presets, you got different styles, all kinds of stuff. You can really tweak it. It's got beats and stuff that are already programmed into it. You can play the individual drums on your keyboard or whatever you want to do. Lots of options. You can get super creative with this, lots of inspiration. So if you don't have any drum option whatsoever, then you have one now. Next one they have is Dandy, which is the same thing, except it's a virtual bass player. So you have a bunch of different bass sounds and styles. You can select different patterns it plays, or you can play it just on your keyboard. And they kind of work together, and they're just super cool. Lots of different tones, anything from R&B and soul all the way to classic rock. Tons of fun to just play around with that. I've spent probably too many hours messing around with this. Next up is the LX480 Essentials Reverb by Relab, and this is a simulation or recreation of a very famous reverb that's been used in all the major studios. You've heard it on anything from the 80s all the way to current productions, and especially if you want the 80s sound, which is very popular right now, this will help you get there. And then you have Labs by Spitfire Audio. Actually, this is free for anybody anyways, but they kind of point you there. Lots of different sound libraries to add different instrumentation and choirs and whatever to your productions. Okay, so that's our whole entire plugin and software list that comes with this. But as I mentioned at the beginning of the list, there is one more plugin you're going to want to get. If you're using recording software like Studio One or Pro Tools or something like that, you already have one of these. But if you grabbed Luna or something else that doesn't really come with plugins, you're going to want to grab this, and that is a digital EQ. So we had some EQ plugins already, but those are like really good for tone shaping and adding some character to your sound. But sometimes you have a problem frequency, like in a snare drum or in a guitar or a vocal. You just need to reduce that frequency and really target that. And a digital EQ will allow you to do that. You can go grab one for free. It's really popular and it's called Nova. And it's got some other features in it as well. But it's a great go-to, quick, just notch out and kill off some weird sounding frequency. All right, so that is an amazing plugin bundle list. Again, it's everything you need to record, to mix, and have your stuff release ready. And again, no subscription model. They are your plugins. And now that you have your brand new audio interface because you used one of those links down below to buy the Volt 2, you're wanting to record some amazing professional electric guitar tones for rock, for country, for metal, whatever it is. And you can do that with Amp Sims, and I show you exactly everything you need to get started with doing that right in this video right here.